That's not a comic book. Now that's a comic book.
Hi everyone, welcome to another episode of Trade Talk. We are continuing the Mike Allred and Dan Slott Silver Surfer run. This is the Last Days arc, if you're buying it in regular trades. I am, of course, reading it in the omnibus. So this collects issues 11 to 15, and is probably, really, if you look at it, the most singular story arc we get for quite some time in the series. This has the most to do with continuity, I suppose. The more I think about it and look at where it's going with stuff. It's been a couple days since I read it, so I'm just looking through the images real quick to really give myself a reminder of certain things. Yeah, a lot of this is pretty much right out of the same story. This book kind of got famous for being more of a singular one and done's kind of stuff, but this is more dead on with like a consistent story, which makes sense since this is kind of like the end of their initial first volume. The next issue is a renumbering, as Marvel's known to do, in 2016. So this is kind of like the final story arc of the first volume, the first half of the book, really. Because it gets to 15 issues, and then starts over, and it gets to 15 issues again, if I'm remembering correctly. So this starts off with Never After, and this is an incredibly interesting and very, very fascinating use of the format. So, I guess I'll start with just some showing off of panels, because this is how the book starts. You get one page before this of the Never Queen, talking about how Nornrad is caught in the worst trap possible. And then you get this 2-page-ish spread of these panels stacked on top of each other with this loop shape, and the bottom row of panels is actually inverted. And so I'll try to flip through this. I need like a book holder. I'll try to flip through this and show you that continues. The formatting of the top panel stacked over the bottom panel and inverted continues throughout the entire chapter. Let me camera down a little bit so I can do this a little more comfortably. Always worry about like ripping a page in my beautiful omnibus. We keep this going and going and going for quite a while, until you get to this page, and then you get this dip. There we go, this dip. So if you've only been reading the top panel, now you go down and you get this dip, and then you start reading more, and you're going to continue on the bottom row now, which means you'll have to which means the top row is now inverted. So you continue to read on the bottom row, and that continues with the formatting for quite a while. Until you get to the end of the bottom row, and then it loops back, and you go all the way back to the beginning of the issue. And it loops that way. You can read it that way ad infinitum. If you only follow the panel structures. If you only follow the panel structures of this issue, you will be trapped between those pages until the very end of time. You can literally read that section of the book over and over and over again and never get anywhere. Because when you get to the middle of the chapter, where the paths cross, I skipped it, didn't I? Yeah. If you get to the middle of the chapter where the paths cross, it just keeps going, and it sends you back to the beginning of the chapter where it loops again. It's really, really clever formatting, because the characters are caught in a time loop. And so that is just an absolutely brilliant and fantastic way to demonstrate a time loop by trapping your reader in a time loop. It's incredibly non-intuitive in a really impressive way. Because you can be reading the top and then like see the bottom and flip it. So you read the bottom and then you realize, okay, I don't have the context for here, so I need to read just the top. So you go through, you read the whole top, you get to the cross page and you're like, okay, I guess now I start reading backwards, and it doesn't make any sense. You can just keep going around. So I had to read this issue 3 times before I finally found the right sequence to read the panels in. And then I decided the way to properly read it was to read through it twice like that. So I read this issue 5 times before I finally caught on. But finally, they break out of the time loop at a certain point here. Things keep going, things keep getting bigger and bigger, and then we get just this fantastic 2-page spread as Nornrad finally figures it all out, figures out how to break out of the time loop, and then they find paradise. He's been searching for a place for these refugees to live, trying to find a new planet for them, and they've had failure after failure after failure in this time loop. He breaks out of the time loop, and they find a suitable planet immediately. And then the next issue has a bit of a time skip, because it looked like he and Dawn were going to be over. They're done because he'd not told her about this whole thing with him being the Herald of Galactus. It looked like their relationship is over, and he's just going to take her home now. But then there's this time skip, and we realize Norrin and Dawn have been living together on this planet with all these refugees, and everything on this planet is perfect. Everything on this planet is just absolutely idyllic. For everyone, not just like, oh yeah, we can go fishing. Like, there's a woman from more of like a warrior hunter culture, and she slays a monstrous boar that was going to kill them all, just like she has with the last 12. Protecting her village and all that stuff. And then Dawn and Norrin begin to get closer. Everything seems like it's fine. And then we begin to realize, yeah, something's really off with this planet, especially once Norrin starts talking to his wife from his old life. And Dawn to her mother, who is dead. You begin to get the sense that, yeah, something's really up with this. And they realize that the planet is called Euphoria. The planet is a living being who just wanted to give everyone everything they could ever want. And so Norrin has to use the power cosmic to isolate the planet's effects from the people to see what it's trying to gain, what it's trying to use to trick them. And the planet says, no, listen, if you really want to leave, you can, but I'm just trying to make everything perfect for you. And so a couple of the refugees leave, but most of them don't. And it's at that point that Norrin goes, okay, Dawn, you and I have to go, though. And so they're heading off into space, and he's like, so after everything that we experienced, after we almost kissed and really entered into a relationship on that planet, what do you really feel for me? And she says, thank you for not kissing me. And he's like, oh. She's like, no, I mean, I shouldn't kiss you because the whole planet wants me to. I should kiss you because I want to. And that's what we get it. They kiss in space because their relationship has been repaired. Absolutely touching story. Really, really impressed with that. I thought that was a very natural place to take things in their relationship, where they did spend time together dealing with that in a different way. Shadow of Batman in the live comments says, I really dig the art from what you're showing. Cannot tell you enough, while we got a quick break here, how much I adore Mike Allred's art. I say the same thing over and over again every time I talk about Mike Allred's art, so apologize to anyone who's watching this after the fact that's already seen me talk about this a number of times. But I love how Mike Allred's art is absolutely timeless. Everything here looks like it could have come out in the 60s, but like great for the 60s. It's great for now, it's great for the 60s, it's great for every decade in between. This is timeless, iconic style comic book art. One of the best artists working in the industry, in my opinion. Alrighty. Then they go on an adventure, and suddenly something terrible happens, and the Never Queen warns them that they must run, Norin-Radd, run, as the Never Queen seems to be dying, and they rush off and everything. And oddly enough, this is actually a tie-in to an event that was going on at Marvel at the time. They rush through space so fast because everything is ending. The present and the future are ending, and all that's left is the past. So they're just rushing through time and space toward the past, trying to survive. And Norrin at one point says, Dawn, don't look behind us. And she's like, why not? And then sees the Earth being destroyed. She's like, no! Anyway, so then as they're rushing, Dawn sees another surfer, another Dawn Greenwood, and she tells them, hey, you gotta go that way. And they go, and there's a rip in the universe, and they get through it. And the future Dawn looks at her future Norrin and says, Norrin, you had to tell her that, Dawn. If you hadn't, she would have let go and tumbled off into the time stream, lost forever. But I told her everything be okay. Always hated lying, even to myself. So it's just like, ooh, foreshadowing. And then we're just in this void of white out of the universe space. And then we get a look at Eternity, who is the physical embodiment of all the Marvel Universe. And they turn to try to talk to him and find out what's happened. And he turns and says, there is no eternity. Only the will of doom. And this is actually a tie-in to an event that was going on at Marvel at the time, which is that Doctor Doom had taken over and recreated the universe to just one planet and one moon. And I remember reading shit from that period, and I was just like, this is dumb. I hate, so hate, like 99% of Marvel events. But it's okay, because this doesn't really tie in with that. It's just a great excuse to tell a really interesting story. So, while they're in this void, they meet Glorian, the maker of miracles, and the lowly Zed, and their master, the Shaper of Worlds, who's like this giant cosmic being outside of reality. And it's up to Norrin and Dawn to recreate the universe. I love Dawn. Alright, let's do this. Let's bring everything in the universe back. She's just immediately ready, because she was so blown away by the tragedy. And so Dawn sets about recreating the Earth, and Norrin and Glorian, set about recreating the rest of the universe, because Norrin's cosmic power is needed to do it. And so they go through trying to recreate the universe, and Norrin's being very intentional to try to recreate things as they were, not play God more than he is required to. Some absolutely beautiful art. I love that Glorian rides a fucking rainbow or leaves a rainbow trail behind him. That's so cool. Again, timeless kind of comic book art. And then, unfortunately, Dawn isn't very good at recreating the Earth because she didn't see much of it, so she's only recreating what she saw in postcards. And in fact, like, London is flat, which is certainly unfortunate. And then Norrin has the problem of having to recreate Galactus, and he decides that he just cannot do it and decides to destroy Galactus. And then he's like, no, wait, I can bring back all the planets I destroyed. And so he goes about doing that too. Meanwhile, Dawn is in need of assistance in recreating Earth since she doesn't know enough about it. So she summons the Surfer, recreating him while he's off recreating the universe. This causes the Shaper of the Worlds great distress, and begins a whole lot of problems. The Shaper of the Worlds comes and says, the shape of every world is wrong. You have made errors, duplications, and anomalies. These must be dealt with if your new universe is to survive. Hurry. It's like Norrin had created Euphoria, which was the world they were just on, and it had been populated with all the people from all the planets that Norrin heralded for Galactus. But then he decided to recreate their worlds, and so now they're on those worlds as well. And it's like, well, shit. That's a contradiction. They can't be both. You can't have both. And Dawn is horrendously tempted to recreate her mother and all this stuff. But now there are two surfers. There's all kinds of wrong going on. And it's at this point that Glorian... why can't I remember this dude's name? I just said it. Glorian? Goldian? It's like a G name of some sort. Can't remember names today. I'm having trouble. Glorian. Thank you. Glorian decides that he's tired of being the servant of the Shaper of Worlds. Now that the Shaper of Worlds is weak from shaping all these worlds through Silver Surfer and Dawn, Glorian decides to attack and take the mantle, take the power. But all he needs to cement this, to be the new Eternity, is for Dawn to settle the last contradiction, which is these two Silver Surfers existing. But she ultimately doesn't do that, or when she does, it's too late for Glorian's pleasure, as she reaches for the what-ifs, the possibilities that the Never Queen left her. And it's through that they're able to recreate the original universe. So they have to choose, recreate the standard Eternity, overthrowing Doom, or accept Glorian's new universe. And ultimately they choose the original universe, even though they both lose something very valuable in doing so, very personally valuable to them. So that destroys Glorian. It's so weirdly cosmic. And then the Surfer and Dawn are off back into Eternity to adventure. She says to Norrin, well, come on, don't you want to see new stars? Yes, with you. We really have no idea where we're going, do we? I do. Anywhere and everywhere. Hang on. Absolutely beautiful artwork by Mike Allred for the end of that first initial volume of the series. just blows you away with how good it is. It has no right to be that good. He has no right to put so many other comic book artists to shame with something that damn good, but he does it. Absolutely fantastic series. Love it even more as it goes on. For something that continuity heavy, where it's technically this that saves the universe from Doctor Doom, it doesn't feel like the tie-in that it technically is. It just feels so natural and so weird as part of the craziness of this universe. The scale of this book. Just an absolutely fantastic series. Love every second of it. Great conclusion of the first volume. Can't wait to read more. Got about half left. So we will be continuing on with that. Everyone, thanks very much for watching this episode of Trade Talk, and thank you as well if you stuck around through comic reviews. Anyway, until next time, bye!
That's not a comic book. Now that's a comic book.